Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and I'm glad to have you back. If you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already done so already, is please subscribe to the podcast. It's on 30 different channels, probably the one you're on now, just choose that one. And while you're out there, please go visit globalinvestoragent.com. If you are an investor, grab an investor agent. These folks are trained to work with you and I, the investors. We know who they are because we train them. They're certified. We're the only place they can get certified, and they are not typical. These folks actually know how to, identify, analyze, and negotiate on and off market deals, which is important to us. They get all the tools and strategies, everything they need to help you succeed. So go ahead and do that. And meantime, we got a great guest today. Nico Makuris is on to talk about crypto. And I want to keep pursuing the subject as much as we can over the next couple of years, because in the last year, it's gone from being something you see monthly or weekly on the news to being something you see every day on the news. So if you haven't paid attention yet, today is a good day to start. So Nico, welcome aboard, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. Well, I know you're busy, especially in the space that you're in. So we're happy and proud to have you. If you wouldn't mind, just reading a little bit about your bio ahead of time. And just like a lot of us, we have a different background than what we're currently doing. So would you mind kind of leading people up to, how you got to where you are today, and then we can talk about, what it is you're doing today.
Yeah, sure. Well, probably back in the early 2000s, I was in the call center business. So I worked for a marketing company, and they were expanding, and I ended up making an offer to the owner to partner with them and open up my own location. I did that. So from 2001 to ironically, the first month I opened was right before September 11th, and we were on the phones selling people, and people in New York were like, "Do you know what's going on right now?" And I'm like, "No, we're not watching TV, we're working." And it just so happened that just so happened to be our grand opening week. And
Wow.
But we did last. It ended up doing well. Turned into a multi-million-dollar company. Had about 149 employees at the peak of it, and did that up until about 2008, 2009. I went through a real estate market crash, as you guys know, in the real estate world. And I owned a call center, but I was taking my profits and I was buying real estate. Now, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that the market was going up, and everything I bought, I seemed to make money on. So I thought I was getting lucky, and I had no idea what was coming, like most people. And the thing I've learned since is that I wasn't flipping. I wasn't renting. I was just buying and holding. And I luckily had a high income with the call center, so I was able to have all these mortgages, and I had condos over here and houses over here just sitting empty. I didn't even know what to do with them, but they were going up in value. And so I just figured, okay, this is the right thing to do. But then the market crashed at the same time. I lost a multi-million-dollar contract with the call center. So it was like a double whammy. I ended up basically having to reorganize, had to short sell the properties, some of them, because they were now worth less than what I owed on them. And as you probably remember, you could just walk into a bank and say, "Listen, I need $500,000 for it." And they just give you the loans. They didn't even ask questions back then. It was crazy. And so I probably calculated that I lost probably about $4 million in real estate at that time, and including the income. And so I had to kind of reorganize my life. And what I was doing in my spare time, even when I had the call center, I was day trading the stock market. And I was always interested in financial instruments, always looking for things to put money into. So in addition to real estate, I put some money in the stock market, and I would do some trades, and I'd get lucky, and I'd be like, "Man, this is easy." It's like taking money from a baby, right? As the old saying goes.
Mm-hmm.
But so I got good at that. I got good at some options trading. And then, people started talking about this Bitcoin thing, and we're in 2012. I think Bitcoin was like $1, $2 or something for a Bitcoin. And I bought about 50 Bitcoins and didn't even know where they were after I bought them. I didn't know how to access, didn't know how to pull them up on the computer, didn't even know what storage device they were in, or didn't understand anything about it. I think Bitcoin, when I really started paying attention, it was at $300 and some per Bitcoin. And I'm like, I think I got like 50 of those things. And it shot up. Bitcoin shot up to about 8 or 9,000, and that's when I sold. I did good. I said this was a pretty smart investment, and right about that time, it dropped all the way back down to like 2,000 or $1,800, and I was like, I got out just in time. Timing the market perfectly. Of course, I didn't know it was about to come, and Bitcoin then went up into the 20s and 30s, 40s, 50s within a very short period of time. Once it broke through the 10,000 range, it went from 10,000, I think, to $50,000 in like a 2.5, 3 month period. And that was the last bull run, the bull market cycle. And since then, I became pretty good at trading, and I got into Bitcoin futures contract trading, probably right around in 2018, 2019. There are some platforms kind of like Fidelity and kind of like E-Trade, but you can trade crypto futures contracts. And so once I started trading Bitcoin futures contracts, I never looked back. I never went back to trading the stock market. I still invest in stocks, but it was the easiest thing to see and understand, because Bitcoin had a nice long price action history. You can see, if anybody's out there is familiar with what charts look like, just picture the candlesticks on the charts. And Bitcoin is very volatile, and I think that scares people, but that's where all the opportunity is. And when you just understand support and resistance and what the trends are, you can scalp a lot of money every day. And so, people started asking me, friends, relatives, they started asking me how to do it. I started helping them set up accounts. Before you knew it, we had like a small little mastermind group of people that were kind of all tuning in every day. And that just kind of grew out of control. We ended up, now we have 1,200 members in our Facebook group and over 150 members in our private mastermind. And those are paid members. We do have a private paid mastermind because it got to the point where it was pretty much full time. I was day trading live, sharing my screen with all the members, and giving signals and basically showing people how to do it and teaching them and training them. And it was kind of funny because we have people that they're interested in crypto. They see we do a demo, and I'll be happy to offer that to your audience as well, a free demonstration where we can get on and I'll just share my screens and show them exactly how we do things. And once they see that and they're like, oh, I think I can do that, they join the mastermind, and I got people making trades and making profits, and they don't even know what they're doing. They don't even, all they're doing is doing what we're showing them and pushing buttons. And they're like, I think I just made like 200%. And they share their screen. I'm like, yep, you did. You closed that trade out perfectly. And so it's fun. It's fun. And by the way, I'm a real estate investor as well. That first experience I told you about was my big wake up call. I learned what I did wrong back then. And, I got into fixing and flipping and, wholesaling and stuff like that. And then, multifamily. And so right now, I'm a partner in about 60 units and trying to build the portfolio and do some wraparound mortgages on some seller finance deals and things like that. But I'm all about anything that any asset class that goes up in value, anything that beats inflation, and something to do with the cash. As you know, cash just sits there and goes down in value, and the purchasing power gets lower and lower over time. So you got to do something with that money. And there's only a few things that I've known and from my experience so far that grow in value. And we're right now in the beginning of the next bull market with crypto. Bitcoin went from $15,000 at the beginning of this year, now up to 30,000. Right around 29 right now, and I see it probably hitting 100,000 probably in this next bull market, at least.
Yeah, I agree. At its peak, I think it actually hit 65, and that was over a year ago. It was the latter half of last year when it dropped down, but part of that, I think it did hit 65. And so if I'm not saying that you can predict the future based on the past. Obviously, we know not to do that. However, you do look for trends and historical patterns. And if you look at the history of the human race, it doesn't matter what the commodity is. It could be real estate, could be, stocks, bonds. Over time, here's what people ask me: what do I think it's going to do? You think it's going to go up? And I say, yeah, it's going to go up. And I'll say, guess what? Then it's going to go down. But listen, don't worry, because it's going to go back up again. And then, to go back down. So then they know I'm joking around with them. But the reality is, if you follow trend lines, for the most part, if you just cut out the emotional part of it, focus on the data, and be patient, because you know what? You're not going to hit a home run every time. You're going You're going to get some singles, some doubles, some triples, and sometimes you're going to strike out. But if you follow a good model over time, the trend is going to go up. It's just you just got to be patient,
Absolutely.
So I've had some success with it myself, and I'm consider myself still a beginner. I'm not really a novice because I understand the terminology and the methodology and the technology. Doesn't make me an expert, but it does make me more curious. And I probably have more questions than I have answers. But also, when knowledge builds confidence, and
Oh, yeah.
you learn to start off with baby steps. I know I've seen a lot of people start off. They get excited because they made it. They have some success in the beginning, then they go right for the rafters. I'm like, man, just just be patient and don't ever invest anything that if you lose it, it won't knock you out. I mean, you gotta, especially if you got a payments like for a house and other investments, you got to, only risk what if you lose, you can still go to bed at night and not kill yourself, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell people that when they see the kind of money that's being made. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And I know people that they're not even of age yet. They're 21 years old, but they're living in Puerto Rico because they had to move there because of there's a certain um,
Yeah.
tax code that's in the IRS allows you to do that if you're a U.S. citizen, and they go there because they're making so much darn money.
That's right. I'm actually
It's
in a
amazing.
group. I'm actually in another trading group myself where I am a paid member, and
Mhm.
the main guy who trades in that group, I think he's probably 28, 29 years old, and he trades $4 or $5 million Bitcoin futures contracts. On any given trade, he's making $100 to $250,000 several times a day. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost like ridiculous. Like, if you tell people this, they don't even believe it. And
Yep.
you see on CNBC and you watch the financial news networks, and you're going to hear about Warren Buffett and a hedge fund or two that are averaging 20% a year, and everybody thinks that's good. And the funny
Yep.
thing is, and I always tell people in my group, I'm 55 years old. You don't live long enough to get rich slow. I say, listen, the majority of the people that make a lot of money usually do so in a relatively short period of time, within a 5 to 10 year period. And that may be quick to some people, but you really can't afford to wait a lifetime at 20%
Right.
a year. Compounded interest is great, but we can show you how to make 20, 30, 40, 50% per day, several times a day on 1% and 2% moves in the market. And people are like,
Yep.
well, how is that possible? How do you make 20% on a 2% move? Well, we use
Yep.
leverage. We use leverage just like you use leverage in real estate. If you go and buy a 10
Yep.
unit apartment building, and let's just say it's $10 million for the sake of this example. Let's use 50 units. That's $10 million. You only have to come up with $1 million, let's just say, right? And the bank will loan you the rest. So that's leverage. Now you're controlling a $10 million asset for $1 million. If it goes up to $20 million in value over the next 5 years, let's just say 10% a year, that's possible, maybe 10 years. Well, who gets that? Who gets that added equity? You do, not the bank. You still owe the bank the same amount of money, so you're leveraging the bank's money. So we do the same thing when we trade Bitcoin futures contracts. I might go long with $1,000 of my own money at risk, but I'll trade at 10x leverage or 25x leverage. And some people, when they hear that, they're like, "Oh, that's dangerous. I heard about that leverage. You got to be really careful with that." But the reality is when you do it the way we show you how to do it, I'm risking 1,000. I'm playing with 25,000. And as soon as I go long, I immediately put my stop loss at 3% of my entry point. So that means that the worst case scenario, I'm wrong in my decision. I think it's going to go long, but it goes against me instead.
Yep.
It's going to take me out at a 3% loss of my margin, which is 3% of my $1,000, not 3% of the 25,000 I'm risking. So the very worst
Right.
case scenario is I lose $30 on that trade. But if Bitcoin goes up 2%, which is a normal move, several times a day, it might go up 2%. In fact, if I were able to share my screen with you, it went up 2% just since about an hour and a half ago. And
Yeah.
so that's like a price of Bitcoin going from 28,900 up to 29,200. Let's just say.
Right.
So just to give you this example real quick, and it would be easier for me to show you than tell you, but just kind of follow me here. If
Yep.
I'm at $1,000 risk with 25x leverage, and it does go up 2%, if I didn't have any leverage, I would only make 2% of $1,000, which is hardly anything. So
Right.
that's not worth trading. But at 25x leverage, I would make $20 times 25. So, now you're talking about a $500 profit on a 2% move. And
Right.
and that 2% move turns into a 40% gain on that one trade. So that's how you can make 40% on a trade with only a 2% move. You got to use the leverage.
We'll be right back with the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast after I invite you to Monday Night Live. Every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, I teach a class without fail for you on subjects ranging from flipping to buying rentals, managing rentals, wholesaling, commercial, creative purchasing techniques, analyzing properties, identifying properties, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of subjects. And if you are a licensee, if you have a real estate license, you should definitely tap in because there are a lot of investor agents also in the class. Many of them are on the global investor agent team. So you can learn from them as well as from me how to actually work with investors correctly and profitably. All right, we'll see you Monday night. The link is in the show notes. Go ahead and register. We'll get right to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. Well, if you want to, I actually did promote you to co-host. If you want to share, I don't know if it's, sure. I don't know it's timing, but if anything you want to show, even historically, I mean, if everybody listened to this on a podcast, I know you're probably in your car. Just remember, this gets published. We put it on our YouTube channel. We put it on our Facebook, LinkedIn. Just go to Real Estate with Gary Wilson on the YouTube channel, and you'll find the podcast, and you can find this recording audio video, and you'll see this. So, great way to educate yourself and see it live in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you should be able to see my screen now. I just shared it, so you should be this is a chart. This is my Bitcoin perpetual futures contract trading. If you look on the upper left corner here, you'll see it says BTC margin. That means I'm trading on a Bitcoin margin, which means that if I make a winning trade or losing trade, I'm making Bitcoin, not US dollars. So I'm trying to accumulate more Bitcoin. You can trade with a US dollar margin, and you can also trade with a USDT margin, which is a stable coin. But I trade with Bitcoin margin because I'm trying to accumulate more Bitcoin so that as Bitcoin goes up here in the coming months and towards the next Bitcoin halving, which is April 2024, I want to have more of it by the time it gets to the next all-time high. So this might look a little confusing because I got a lot of lines drawn because I teach and trade. I teach and train every day. So I'm showing people how to draw trend lines and support and resistance levels. But if you just kind of try to look through the cluster here and notice this downward trend, this a channel. We call this a channel. Here's the bottom of the channel and here's the top of the channel. And you'll notice Bitcoin went up and hit the top, hit it again here, came down, hit the bottom, hit the bottom again, went up, hit the top, and just kind of bounced around. And now it's but then there's this blue line coming up. So and now I'm on a very low time frame, on 15-minute time frame, but I'm going to go up to like the 4-hour so you can see what's really happening here. And I'm going to actually remove some of these drawings so you can get a clear image. So this was the upward trend, and this was that downward trend I was just telling you about. It's a downward trend in this channel. But this is a channel going down, but it's in an overall channel that's going up. So if you notice, since 15,000 down here at the bottom, we've been trending up. But as you mentioned earlier, Bitcoin goes up and down, up and down, up and down, but on its way up. And if we zoom out a little further, if we go all the way to about here, this is right about here is the new year. This is January of 2024, right about here. So we got the rest of this year to get here. And April is right about here, and that's going to be the Bitcoin halving. And my prediction is by the time Bitcoin gets to the halving, we will probably be in the high 30s to maybe even high 40s. Bitcoin will be probably in the 40 to 50,000 range, somewhere over here, when it goes through that halving. And then what happens after that is usually a hockey stick up. Now, if I come over here, this was the previous all-time high, 69,000 right here. It actually hit 69, which was a double top. It hit 60. It hit 64 and then came down and then popped back up for a minute. But as you can see, a bear market cycle takes about 18 months for it to come from the top all the way to the bottom. And then once it breaks out of this downward channel, very predictable, guys, Very predictable, because once we see it pop out of this downward trend line, that is technically the beginning of the next bull market cycle. And that takes another 18 months to get to the top. And if we go back and just look throughout history, I can show you another little chart here. Let me know if you can see that. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see this rainbow chart that I just put on here? So if you look, if we go back all the way to 2010 over here on the far left, you'll see when it hits its all-time high, that's the red zone. And it takes about 18 months from the bottom to the top. And then it takes about another 18 months from the top down to the bottom. And then this line, this horizontal line here, vertical line, that's the Bitcoin halving. That happens every 4 years. As you can see, once it goes through the halving, boom, shoots up to new all-time highs. And then that takes about 18 months to 2 years. And then 18 months to 2 years, all the way back down to the bottom of the next bear market cycle. And then look what happens. We go sideways and up, but sideways. And then through the halving, hockey stick up to the new all-time high. Bear market cycle, halving, all-time high. This was it, 64,000. We did a double top here at 69, and then that was the top. And now we've trended down 18 months to the bottom, 15,500 here at the bottom. Boom, we broke out, and now we're on the way to the next halving. This is April 2024 here. Once it goes through that, hockey stick up. Why will that continue to happen? Well, there will come a time possibly when this trend is over, when we move from 1% of the entire investing world in Bitcoin to maybe 5 or 10%, and then it might break out of this rainbow chart here. But if we look throughout history, this is going back 10 years, guys. Every one of these halvings is 4 years apart.
Yeah.
And every time after it's gone through a halving, we've seen a new all-time high. So what should that tell you? It should tell you that right now we are near the bottom of the next bull market cycle, just starting. I mean, 15.5 was the bottom, but you know what they say, the best time to plant a tree is, 20 years ago. The next best time is now. So now would be the time to get in and start to understand this, because we'll probably trend to about 40 to 50 grand and then shoot up into the yellow to orange zone. I'm not even going to say it's going to go into the red zone. The red zone would be $350,000 for Bitcoin. But let's just say it only goes into the yellow zone. Now we're, you're at 100, 120,000, 130,000. And that is 4x of where it's at now. We're at 30 grand. Going up to 120,000 would be about 4x from where it's at right now. Yep. So if you just bought one Bitcoin and sat on it, it could 4x over the next several months, maybe a year from now. Not even, maybe 8 to 9 months. And now that's one way to do it. That's called hodling, right? Hold on for dear life. But what we'll show you how to do is make 10 times more than that. So let's just say you did what I just said. You bought one Bitcoin and you just held it and waited, and you 4x. Okay, that means your purchase of one Bitcoin right now at 29,000, hitting 120 grand. That means you 4x the value, but you still only have one Bitcoin. So your choice is when it gets to that high is you either sell it or convert it to US dollar and wait, and then or short it on the way back down so that you can ride this back down. Because a lot of people are scared. They don't know what to do once it gets up here. So imagine this. Let's say you rode it all the way up and you 4x to the top, and now you're sitting on $120,000 Bitcoin, and now it's going to start to come down for the next bear market. Well, what I would do is I would short it at that point. Now I have $120,000 worth of Bitcoin. If I shorted that at 10x leverage all the way back down, and in this case, it's not going to come back down to 15,000. It's going to come down to like 50,000, maybe 60,000 from 120. By the time you rode that back down on a 10x short with 10x leverage, your one Bitcoin, you would probably accumulate 5 or 6 more Bitcoins by the time it got to the bottom of the next bear market. And then what happens? Well, now you got 5 Bitcoins going into the next bull market cycle. Yeah, this is cyclical, guys. Just like the stock market, just like real estate. If you go look at real estate and go back over the last 50 years, we've had some dips. 2007 was a big one. 2008, right? But 2008 is hardly even noticeable anymore when you look at the overall projection of real estate, just in a constant increase up, right? And so Bitcoin kind of looks like that as well. But what we do here is if you come in with one Bitcoin, and I don't want to ramble on about this, but I like people to understand, if you have one Bitcoin and you were trading with us, you don't even have to risk the whole thing. Let's say you only go long with $10,000 of that Bitcoin. You don't want to risk the whole thing. You just want to play with 10 grand worth of Bitcoin. So you go long with $10,000 with Bitcoin at 10x leverage. Now you're long with $100,000. And let's say Bitcoin does go to 120,000. That will be a 4x from its current price. That means your $10,000, if you did your $10,000 would be 4x, which would be 40 grand times the 10x leverage that you're at, which means that you would turn that $10,000 into $400,000 by the time it got to 120,000. And so this is how you shortcut wealth. You know, like I said earlier, we don't live long enough to get rich slow. This is how you take a little bit of money and really compound it just in one bull market.
Okay. That's pretty awesome. So a couple questions. The technology you're using, is this like a program, mapping, graphing, data gathering tool that anybody can get?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I use a platform called Femex Futures. It's up here in the upper left corner. I mean, you can go Google that and find it yourself and open up an account yourself. Okay. You don't need me to do that. But if you want to learn how to trade it, and it's kind of like trading stocks on E-Trade or a professional trading pro account. This is for pros. This is for people who know what they're doing, and I'm trading right on the chart. This is real time. So if I go to the lower time frame down to the 1 minute chart, you'll see it's moving as we're talking. You'll see the price fluctuation over here. Bitcoin's at 29,118 right now, and I'm on the 1 minute chart. You can actually see. Let me just scroll down here. Let me just make sure that I'm on the right chart here for you guys. And so minute by minute, the chart is changing, it's moving, and we're trading. And not only that, but we can go and trade. We can trade on a USD margin, any one of these cryptos over here on the left. If I go to coin margin, we can only trade Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if I go to USDT, which is a stable coin, we can trade hundreds of different cryptos. But I like to stick to Bitcoin futures contracts because Bitcoin is, most all the other cryptos correlate with Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin moves, they all move very equally in a lot of cases. So rather than focusing, just like the stock market, rather than having to scan and worry about 20 different stocks that you're trying to keep your eye on, you can just focus on one thing like Bitcoin and make more money probably over the next 8 to 10 months than you could trying to keep track of 20 different stocks in the stock market with a lot less risk, in my opinion.
Yep. So now how this group that you're running, well, it sounds like from before you're one group you're running, and then there's another group that you're actually a member of. But is that something that people listening can participate in? How like I know you have a website. I didn't have a lot of chance to check it out. Is it more educational, or kind of go into your what it is you're doing, like your format or your program?
Yeah. So you can find us at cryptorenegades.co/calendar if you want to book a free call with me. And what I would do on that call is just share my screen, show you exactly everything that we do, and show you how our mastermind works. And obviously to see if this is a fit for you, or if you're a fit for this type of coaching and mentoring, because not only do we trade Bitcoin futures contracts, but we also have a team of people working with us that scout and vet up and coming new token launches. And so we have the Crypto Renegades Mastermind chat and the Crypto Renegades Launch Room. And these are two private groups. And the Launch Room basically is, we are launching, I'll pull this over and show you real quick. This is our Telegram Launch Room up here at the top, the Launch Room. And we share anywhere from 2 to 5 brand new token launches every single week. We vet about 20 of them, but out of the 20, we narrow it down to 2 to 5 that really we know that are legitimate. They're not scams. They have a good utility. We've talked to the founders and the developers. We know who's behind it. They have good intentions and they're planning on being around for a while. And most importantly, they have a good utility behind the token. But we're able to get in on these pre-sales and these launches prior to them going public. So it's kind of like IPOs in the stock market, but it's ICOs, initial coin offerings. And most people, I would say 99.999% of the entire population on the planet have no idea this exists. They know that new tokens are launching. They know that there's a lot of cryptos out there on Coinbase and crypto.com, but they don't know They don't know how to find them before that happens. They don't know how to find them before they go public. And that's what we do. We find them before they even go public. We get in on the private sales and the pre-sales. And when they launch, we sometimes see 2x up to 100x gains, like right out of the bat. It's kind of crazy. I'll share one with you right now. This is just today. Real quick, let me go in here and I'll show you. Just shared this one called Quantic Protocol. Put it in here on August 11th. That's when the pre-sale started. It just launched today, this morning at 10 a.m. If I hold my mouse here, you can see down here at the bottom, August 16th, 10:30 a.m. It launched. And as of right now, it's up over 2x. So, and this is all just the same day. 2x, guys, that's 100% gain, over 100% gain just today. Yep. And all you would have had to do was buy on the pre-sale, which is down here before it launches. And any time between then and now, you can just sell and get out. All you do is you come up here and hit the trade button, and you just swap it back to the token that you started with. So we show you how to do all that. It may look confusing on my screens right now, but we have a step-by-step process. We have a membership that we bring people through. It looks like this right here. It's Crypto Renegades membership group, and we have a step-by-step tutorial process that walks you through how to do all this stuff. And I know this might sound like a sales pitch. I'm not really trying to sell people on the program, but what I do want people to know is that you can learn more about this by just reaching out. I'll be happy to get on a private call with you and just show you everything. There's no pressure. There's no no urgency. We're here for anybody. But one thing I can say that is urgent is that people who don't learn this stuff and they just kind of think, it's a passing phase, are really going to get left in the dust, because now what's happening, as you probably know already, huge hedge funds. I mean, Michael Saylor from MicroStrategies has over 105,000 Bitcoins right now, worth $4 billion. He puts about $30 million worth into Bitcoin every single month. He's a publicly traded company, and he's one of the smartest guys on the planet. He's meeting with hedge fund managers and CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies, and he's teaching them how to put their cash, because a lot of these billion-dollar companies are sitting on so much cash, and that cash is losing value to the tune of 8 to 10% a year sitting there. Yep. And he's averaging 100% plus gains per year by moving it into Bitcoin. And people say, well, how is that possible? Because you just go back the past decade, and Bitcoin has averaged over 100% a year. And you compare that to almost any other asset class, and it doesn't even compare. And so learn about it. Learn as much as you can about it. We do have a free Facebook group. It's called Crypto Renegades as well. You can join that for free. But if you really want handheld, mentoring and instructions on how to actually get in and get out and make profits daily and really grow your account size, just reach out to me. Be happy to hop on with anybody and show them behind the scenes and walk them through exactly what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. So let me do this real quick. I'm going to go find the make sure I got this right. Let's see. So it's cryptorenegades.com, C-O-M or C-O?
It's actually just CO. And if you put a forward slash there and add guide to it or calendar, it'll take you to our calendar. And if you go to Facebook, it's Crypto Renegades. Just Crypto Renegades, and we do have a big Facebook group there. Now, if that's too much to try to remember, just look at my name on the screen here, Nico Makiris, because if you Google me or go to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or YouTube or anything, and just type my name in, you're going to find lots of videos from me on my personal social media pages, and you can always reach out to me through that as well.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this, guys. For everybody, if you're driving, don't worry. We'll have this in the show notes. When you get home, just bring it up and you'll see it. So it's cryptorenegades.co. And if you want the guide, do /guide. And if you want to, was it calendar for the other option, Nico?
/ calendar to book a call. And the guide, actually, I apologize, guys. The guide is... it's guide.cryptorenegades.co.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Let me write this down. Guide.cryptorenegades. Okay.
.co.
And .co
And
crypto renegade.
yeah, and I was going to say anybody who just reaches out to me and sends me a private message or send me a friend request or anything like that on any of the social media platforms and just ask for the guide or anything crypto related, I'll send you all the links to everything you need.
Okay, well that sounds awesome. And I tell you what, I'm going to be back in Tampa. Let's see, third week in October. I'm not sure when I'm coming, when I'm leaving, but I've got to speak. It's not the Tampa Club. I did a talk there last year. Some other group, and I'm drawing a blank on what it is now. But I'll be there. I'll make sure you get an invite, and maybe you and I can grab a bite to eat or something.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Sounds good.
Usually when I go there, I'll try to stay as long as I can, 5 to 7 weeks. But unfortunately, it's actually the 19th of October is when it's Thursday the 19th. The next day I've got to get back to Tidewater, Virginia, because there's a homecoming the next day with all my old college buddies getting together, and
Oh,
it's
nice.
we're you and I are in the same age group, so we those things were like we just even if if we end up in a doghouse, we make that trip, you know.
Yes,
You know what I mean? So yes, we
absolutely.
don't want to miss. But in any case, I really appreciate this. This has been very insightful. It's the first time we had someone actually demonstrate that, um, with the software you're using, and the fact that you shared that, says a lot. So everybody, listening and watching, remember you can watch this on YouTube. We're going to post it on Facebook, post it on LinkedIn. There'll be little shorties, on Instagram and TikTok, things like that. If you're if you're in one of our groups, you'll get it via email too. So don't worry. There's some detail here. Just remember the cryptorenegades.co without no M at the end of CO as in company. Okay.
Yep.
/ calendar to schedule a call. And if you put the word guide in front, there's a guide dot
Guide
crypto renegade.
dots. Yeah, guide
Gotcha.
dot crypto renegades. I know that's a little confusing. Normally, we're not saying it to people. We're usually just sending them a link. So
Gotcha.
I apologize for that. But
No
and
worries.
also my name. You can just Google me and find me on social media, or just Google my name and you'll find all of our links there
Yep.
as well.
And for guys, that's Nico Niko and Mercuris Mercuris.
You got
And
it.
for those of you who've been on the podcast for all you know, one of my best friends in life is Socrates, who lives in Port St. Lucie, Florida. His dad's the one who showed us how to invest in real estate when we were 23 back in Virginia Beach. Didn't Never gave us any money, just showed us what to do. And I tell you, at the end of the day, there's no education or nothing beats an education. I don't care if it's a 5 minute education or like what Mr. Demet showed us or what Nico's shown us today.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got my college education. Believe me, I've met some pretty awesome people, and got to work at NASA, some cool things like that. But make no doubt about it, guys, I did not earn my wealth in the corporate world. I left there when I was 40 years old, and everything I started with real estate. I started with stock market actually. Then I got into the real estate, and then lately it's the crypto world. But learn, because it's the wild wild west out there, and you need people like Nico that you can
Yeah.
see and actually meet with and talk to. That's who you work with, not the nameless, faceless people that are doing. There's all kinds of
Oh
there's
yeah.
things out there you want to avoid. So be careful and work with people you can see and talk to. All right, so really important. So thanks
Absolutely.
again, Nico. Yeah. And for our listeners, thank you too. Thanks for participating. When you're out there online, once you go to the cryptorenegades.co, please stay online and leave a review for the podcast. We really appreciate that. It's what helps us get more juice from the podcast world. We don't really get paid for this. It's a free like community service. We'd love to do it though. I learn as much as you do when you're listening to it. But if you could leave a review, we really appreciate it. And before you leave, click on globalinvestoragent.com, particularly if you're a real estate agent. I'm not trying to scare you. I promise you, this is not time to panic. It's time to prepare. I know inventory is tight. It's like that everywhere. It's not just your neighborhood, but there are things you can do by working with investors. I promise you, once you learn the language, you learn how to speak the language, you learn the methodology and the terminology, you're going to make a lot more money with investors than you will with owner occupants. And then take some of what you learn and earn and apply it to things like the stock market and crypto. It's here to stay. I'm telling you, if for people who are not in it already are missing one of the greatest opportunities, to me, this is paramount. This is Nico. This is the same level what we're experiencing right now is what was happening in the industrial age, except the industrial age took a span of 100 years to play out. Everything that we showed you today, guys, and Nico showed you, it happens in a matter of seconds. What you're seeing in the stock market could take a year to play out. Take that same scenario that takes a year in the conventional world, condense it down to 2 seconds, and that's what happens in the crypto world.
Oh yeah.
So it's the blockchain processing. Title companies are going to it. Banks are going to it. It is here to stay.
Yeah.
Hedge funds are now investing in it. Even Fidelity, the big mutual fund company, they now have a platform where you can trade. You can only trade one or two things on it, but they're getting into it. So, these are big money people. The reason they have big money is because they're smart with money.
Absolutely.
So follow the smart money.
You just said, just a real quick, BlackRock, as everybody probably has heard, they're filing right now to the SEC to be able to provide a Bitcoin ETF, and they're working on it right now. They got rejected once. Now they're resubmitting it. They're going to get approved, and once that happens, guys, billions and billions are going to flood into Bitcoin, and then you're going to see a lot of other hedge funds coming out with their own ETFs, their own managed funds. And then we're going to go from a $1 trillion market cap or $900 billion market cap in Bitcoin to 10 trillion. It's going to be somewhere up there equal with gold. And when that happens, you're going to see a $500,000 to $1 million Bitcoin. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And that's just the beginning, because Bitcoin can go to 10 million and even $25 million for one Bitcoin. And when people hear that, they're like, oh, that's not, it's going to happen. It's just time. It's all just a matter of supply and demand. And right now there's only 40 million wallets in the whole world that are holding Bitcoin. A lot of those wallets are the same people. Imagine when that turns to 100 million, 200 million, 500 million. It's just going to go. Now is the time. People think they missed it when Bitcoin was $1. They're thinking, oh, it's too late. Now it's 30,000. Trust me, when Bitcoin's 300,000 or 3 million, you're going to think 30,000 was peanuts. So definitely learn about it. For sure.
Well, I'll even add to that. This is my own personal philosophy, guys. Believe me, I'm not I can't predict the future, but people are now worried about the dollar losing its power as the world's reserve currency because of BRICS, and it's going to eventually be the Chinese one. Well, for one thing, is what the dollar isn't the only reserve currency we've ever had. Before that, it was the British pound. Before that, it was the Dutch. Before that, believe it or not, the Chinese yuan was the world's reserve currency centuries ago. But here's what I want to tell you. This is my prediction. I predict that at sometime in the near future, Bitcoin will be the world's reserve currency. You watch it, because it's decentralized. It's not tied to any one bank or country. You and I, we control it. The citizens of the world control it. So just keep that in mind. I could be flat out wrong, and maybe I will. I don't know. But when I see what's going on in the conventional world, I see what's happening in the crypto world, I can pretty much assure you, all it's going to take is one or two banks to catch a hold of that and want to be in the front of the line. Everyone else is going to follow in line. It's going to happen fast.
Yeah. And even if that doesn't happen, it will definitely be a reserve asset class that people hold their assets in as a hedge against inflation, like they used to do with gold. The difference is, as you know, you can't travel with 20 pounds of gold on you. It's inconvenient. Bitcoin is basically digital gold, and there is a finite value. A lot of people say, well, gold is more valuable. It's tangible, but the reality is gold, they keep digging more of it out of the ground, and we don't even know how much there is. There's probably more in the earth still than there has been ever brought back up, and there's probably an asteroid on the way with even more. And but Bitcoin is finite. There's 21 million that will ever exist. They've already mined 19 million. The next couple million will take another 100 years, I believe, before that's mined. But there's only so much of it. The value's going up, the supply's going down, and it's just kind of one of those inevitabilities. And like you said, but even if it's not the reserve currency, even if the government comes out with its own digital coin, people will be flocking to the decentralized space, and Bitcoin is decentralized. So one thing the government cannot touch. They would have to literally shut down the internet in order for you to not have access to it. And if that happens, we got bigger problems. Oh
yeah, it's time to jump on the spaceships at that point. Yeah. So, well, listen, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this show. I know I certainly did. We will see you on the next Massive Passive podcast. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and God bless you and your families.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.